The backup QB 2 or 3. I mean, he didn't ever dress, did he? Did he even dress for the games? Never dressed. But you guys know him as the heartbreak kid, the first round pick of the first round last year. Jordan Love. Obviously, after the kind of season that Rodgers had last year, you're not looking to trade him. Packers aren't looking to move on from him, at least not this year. I thought the talks about us trading him this offseason or even next offseason were just lunacy. I could not understand that. It was on every radio station. I don't get it. With that said, when you look at Jordan Love and the situation going on in Green Bay, if you were the Packers GM, what would you do with Jordan Love, not only this year, but maybe even looking on into moving him next year or starting him next year? What's the correct move, do you believe, for the Packers to make in terms of Jordan Love?
So he's entering his second year, and I foresee him being QB2. I love Tim Boyle, but he is a impending free agent. And I think with Love being on the team for at least another 3 years, possibly 4 if they pick up his option, I don't see Love, or I don't see Boyle coming back, and I see Love being QB2. Hopefully we have that preseason this upcoming summer, so we can actually see what he can do in games. I think you keep him for the foreseeable future just because of his potential. Like, backup quarterbacks are hard to come by, or I should say good backup quarterbacks are hard to come by. We've seen it time and time again where teams lose their starting quarterback and the team isn't the best around, or like the team around other than the quarterback isn't the best. Like, we look at the Steelers when they lost Big Ben. That offense was atrocious with Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges. I think they played admirably, but you know, you lost your starting quarterback. You're not going to do much unless you have like an amazing team around it. Like, we've seen the Patriots have success when Tom Brady's been out, either when he's hurt or when he was suspended. The Packers have always struggled when Rodgers was out. Yep. We've had multiple quarterbacks come in to try and salvage, the season. We've had Matt Flynn, Seneca Wallace. I think Matt Flynn came in again that year. They brought him back. Deshaun Kaiser, which was a fantastic experiment. But I think Love is on the team for the foreseeable future, and I think the future holds three different possibilities. I think the first one is he is the heir apparent for Rodgers, and he starts in 3+ years. That would mean that the Packers would have to move on from Rodgers, and the only way I see that happening is if Rodgers' play declines like Peyton Manning's did. Like, he just falls off a cliff. Even if Rodgers has, like, let's say he played like he did in 2019, where he had 26 touchdowns and 4 interceptions and then like 4,200 yards. I really do not see them moving on from Rodgers even after a season like that. Like, that is an incredibly efficient season.
Sure is.
I don't care who you are. That is like a very good season for nearly any other quarterback except for Aaron Rodgers, maybe Tom Brady. Even I've seen Brady have seasons like that and people have praised him for it. But for Rodgers, oh my goodness, he's having a down year. The second one I see is that we have that preseason and he plays terribly. And then he plays terribly in his limited regular season reps. So whether that be at the end of games or if, God forbid, Rodgers goes down, he looks like Deshaun Kaiser. It's a waste of a pick. The Packers probably get nothing for him. They just, hold on to him until his contract's up. So they take on no dead money. And then, they try and find a new heir apparent from Rodgers, or Rodgers is still playing at an MVP level 4 years from now. I see that one being the least likely scenario. I think Love has a lot of potential, and I know Nathaniel Hackett is really excited to see what Love can do with his development in year 2 because he is the suspected QB2.
Yep.
The most likely scenario that I see happening is number 3, and that's he plays well in the preseason, and then he plays well in the limited regular season reps that he gets, which means that he becomes a valuable trade piece. And we all know that quarterback-needy teams will give up a lot for a quarterback they think can change their franchise. Let's look at some trades that happened in the draft. Look at what the Bears gave up for Mitch Trubisky. They thought that Trubisky was going to change their franchise. While Trubisky has been a solid quarterback, I would not say that he's been fantastic. I don't think he's been bad. I think he's been solid, but not worth that second, third overall pick and all that draft capital they give up for him. It was not worth it. Even maybe the Jimmy Garoppolo trade. I don't even know about that because he hasn't been what the 49ers thought he would be when they gave up I believe a second for Jimmy. But I think so. Love, when I see the Packers trading him, Love will probably be in his third or fourth year with still that option, so teams could pick up that option. So he'll be like 23, 24 when they trade him, because he was young coming out of the draft. Like, his contract is going to be up when he's, I think, 24, and then Joe Burrow is already 24.
Yeah.
So Love is going to be young. I think he shows promise in the preseason and the regular season. It's going to show that he's talented and has potential. And I could see Jordan Love turning into a first or second, depending on the team. Wow. And, as I alluded to before, quarterback-needy teams will give up a lot. And those quarterback-needy teams are normally picking early in the draft. So the Packers, if Jordan Love develops, but Rodgers continues to play at a high level and the Packers move on, Jordan Love could get the Packers an early first or an early second, which could be like franchise changing. Let's say Rodgers is 39, 40 years old when Jordan Love gets traded. And they trade him for a top 10 pick in the first or second. That's either another heir apparent, like an elite heir apparent if he's drafted that early. That could be a stud wide receiver, a stud cornerback to pair with Jair Alexander, who I'm hoping is still on the team 4 years from now. Like, could be the new right tackle of the future for the Packers. The Brian Bulaga replacement only 4 or 5 years down the line. Like, Jordan Love has so many possibilities in his career, and I really don't see why so many Packers fans are complaining this much about it. Like, okay, yeah, it would have been great to get some help, but like, you look at the players around the board that were there, the only player I would have wanted was Patrick Queen, and in my opinion, both Kamal Martin and Chris Barnes outplayed Patrick Queen last season. So, getting Michael Pittman or one of those other early second round wide receivers would have been nice. But, hindsight is 2020. You don't know how good they're going to be. Are you, at that point, you think you're drafting them too high? I think getting Love in a draft where, it's not so much rebuilding, you're retooling, you run it back. You went 13-3, went to the NFC Conference Championships. There's not too much that needs to be improved. And, we saw that this year. Not too much was added to the Packers team, and they went 13-3 again, and were a few plays, a few calls going their way away from going to the Super Bowl. So that Love pick, it could end up being a waste of a pick, but like, I didn't see any franchise-changing players at that point. Like, I think down the line he could get more than what the Packers gave up for him. So look forward to that. Or, Rodgers flames out in a few years. The arm isn't what it used to be. God forbid. I hope he plays until he's 75 at this level. I never want to see him leave. But Like, you have a quarterback who has a lot of potential, and teams love potential. You either have your next, maybe not a Hall of Fame quarterback, but your next franchise quarterback who's, I would see him being pretty solid, or a great trade piece to improve your already stacked roster to put the team over the edge and to get Rodgers his 7th Super Bowl in 4 years. I don't know.
yeah, right.
What do you think?
No, man, it's interesting I thought you were going to say exactly what I was going to say, but I'm going to go off of what you were saying about the Matt Flynn's and the Jimmy G's and all that. I want to give you a hypothetical scenario, right? Or actually, first I'll give you some context to the hypothetical, and then I'll give you the scenario. So you go back to 2017 when Tom Brady was suspended for 4 games because of Deflategate and everything else. And the Patriots started 2 games with Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G, 2 games with Jacoby Brissett. All right, I want you to listen to this. I could not believe that this is what got these players contracts and or traded. Jimmy G played 2 games. He started in 2 games. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Pretty good, right? 2-0 record for the New England Patriots. Gets traded, like you said, for a 2nd-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers. Goes to the 49ers, plays 6 games, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, is rewarded a 5-year, $137 million deal off of 8 games up to that point, pretty much, off of 8 games and potential, obviously. And was traded for a 2nd-round pick for a guy that had only played 2 games up to that point that meant anything and, not very much there. Jacoby Brissett, same thing. Same year, goes 1-1, doesn't throw a touchdown, doesn't throw an interception, but wins a game. Somehow, the Patriots flip him for Philip Dorsett, which at the time, a promising young, speedy receiver, a guy that I think a lot of Packers fans at that point, if it were now, would be excited about having for a guy like Jordan Love if you could flip those 2 for each other. So, Matt Flynn, obviously, has a terrific game, 1 game. In what was that, 2012, 2011, 2012?
2011. One of the best games a Packers quarterback has ever played.
One of the best games any quarterback's ever played.
Yeah,
and
that's very true.
And this is a guy that has played like a few snaps ever since. I mean, has that one terrific game, 6 touchdowns, over 500 yards. Me and you recognize him as the GOAT Packers quarterback of all time. And he signs a 3-year, $26 million deal with Seattle. So my point in saying all that is, that brings me to my hypothetical scenario. You see, like you said, you mentioned quite eloquently that teams that are in need of quarterbacks will pay an unreasonable amount for them, whether it's draft picks, whether it's contracts, even if they're not proven. So you gave 3 scenarios. I'm going to give my one dream hypothetical scenario. Jordan Love comes in, assuming we have a preseason, comes into the preseason healthy. I want to play him as much as we can. Mm-hmm. Play him for 3 out of the 4 quarters every single preseason game. I don't know if there's going to be 3 games, 4 games. Play him a lot. You just hope to the high heavens he plays really, really well in those preseason games. Or at least he looks impressive in those games. He doesn't have to blow you away stats-wise, but at least looks really good. Similarly to like what Dak Prescott did in 2016 when he won that job from Tony Romo. Just go in there and light it up. Really, really, really impressive. He then goes to QB2, obviously, and like you said, probably sits, maybe comes in for some games at the end of the game, assuming that we're either getting blown out or hopefully blowing the team out. Or like you said, God forbid, Rodgers goes down. Looks good in those few minutes that he gets per game there. And then I'd like to see you flip him for an asset next offseason. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, teams aren't going to do that off of a few good preseason games. It's just not realistic. I think history tells you otherwise. I think history in the NFL tells you that teams are so quick to pull the trigger on a quarterback with promise. And newsflash, Packers fans, the Packers were not the only team that had their eye on Jordan Love. If you look at news and you look at articles that were written when we drafted him, there were quite a few GMs that were really looking at him as that next Patrick Mahomes. Now, obviously, that's everybody loves to compare the next quarterback to the big quarterback and all that, but I think it's a little soon for that. But the guy, if you look at his college highlights, he's got potential. And like you said, obviously there are other scenarios that could work out well for the Packers. I don't see many reasons to be that upset about the pick, especially at this point still. There was not a lot of room for improvement on that Packers offense. It's not like we had a 20, what was that, 18 or 19 offseason where we brought in, Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith and all these other guys and Adrian Amos and all that. We kind of stayed packed. We were 13-3. We had a great season. We brought back basically the same roster at another great season. So I think there's just a litany of great scenarios that could work out well for the Packers. You pretty much touched on them all. He can, sit. I'd like to see us trade him this upcoming offseason. Hopefully, like you said, is he going to garner a first-round pick? I think a bad organization that's not run well, like Houston, might do it. A second-round pick, definitely. A second and a third, a second and a fifth. You don't even need a top 1 or 2 round pick. We've seen guys in the 6th round go big and have huge impacts. Antonio Brown is a 6th round pick. Everybody knows Tom Brady is a 6th round pick. Russell Wilson is a 3rd round pick. So Dak Prescott is a 4th round pick. So like you said, the list just goes on. And, if it's not that, if we don't trade him next offseason, I think the most other likely scenario I'd like to see happen is that he sticks with us. Packer fans, you got to give it a couple of years. Rodgers might end up moving on to another team, or he might not. He might retire a Packer, which is what I'd like to see. I don't want to see him play for another team. We don't need another Brett Favre situation. I'd like to see him stay. I'd like to see him, Love evolve and progress under Rodgers, similarly to how Rodgers did under Favre. Not saying the two situations are exactly similar, but it might even be better because Rodgers, by all accounts, seems to be more willing to tutor Love than Favre was for Rodgers. Obviously, that's well chronicled. Everybody knows how kind of sour that relationship got at the end there. And I think it's very possible that Rodgers, has a few more years. What did you say? 7 Super Bowls in 4 years? I don't know if that happens, but like that. Obviously, I'd like to see. I think it's possible, like we discussed in the other episode. I think we can maybe get another Super Bowl or 2 out of Rodgers, assuming that we can get past Brady. And then let me ask you this, Napo. I'm going to throw this at you, and this is also a question for the people listening. Put it in the comment section, or just kind of talk amongst whoever you're listening to this with, or answer yourself. Which scenario would you rather have as a Packers fan? The Packers keep Rodgers for the next, what is it? He's 37 right now, right? Turning 38. We keep him for the next 5 or 6 years. We trade Jordan Love away. We never win another Super Bowl, but we're always there. We're always in the divisional round or the championship round. And then when Rodgers retires, because we've been focused on getting in position players to help him out, we go through 5 years or so of just mediocrity, or maybe even in the top 10, 15 of the draft. Would you rather have that, but we're still a solid playoff contending team? Or would you rather have us go to Love, let's just say at the start of next year, and flip Aaron Rodgers for even way more than anything we could ever get for Jordan Love? Not saying that's even likely. I'm just saying, since we're talking hypotheticals, if we could flip Rodgers and try Love, maybe even not next year, 2 years from now, or like you said, maybe even 3, and Rodgers is still playing well, but that would mean we would have to move off of a Rodgers who's playing really well still, even if he is 40 years old.
I think it really comes down to what Jordan Love has shown me. So, if he looks okay in the preseason, I don't know how much I would trust him as my starting quarterback. But even if he balls out in the preseason, that doesn't always necessarily translate to the regular season, as we saw with Brett Hundley. The man balled out every single preseason. He looked phenomenal. And when Rodgers went down in 2017, I was like, oh, we're going to be fine. We got Brett Hundley. This man has looked fantastic. And then we missed the playoffs. So right now, I have to go with Rodgers. As of this moment, I am not comfortable handing the reins to Jordan Love.
You'd rather keep Rodgers.
Yes, I think Jordan Love has all the potential in the world to become an all-star caliber quarterback. But from what I've seen and what I've heard right now, I cannot trust him. I think he is going to take another 2 to 3 years to develop. But, that could also not happen. Like, he could flame out like Jamarcus Russell. Like, all the potential in the world and just it never turned into anything.
Yeah.
I need to see him make significant improvements, and that's why I really hope that the preseason happens, because yes, the preseason doesn't always translate to the regular season, but it's his throwing motion. Like, if you watched him in the very few training camp videos and the practice videos, like, he didn't really look comfortable. He was missing pretty routine throws at the beginning of the season, but then at the end of the season, he was making some of these throws. And if I see him comfortable in the pocket, making throws to, if he plays with, I'm hoping they put the starters around him so he can play with Devontae, with MVS. Hopefully he turns into something and the Packers re-sign him for years to come. So, whoever's quarterback has, those two guys to throw to has that cushion. And if he is having that rapport with these wide receivers, I see no reason why Love could not. I would see no reason why Love wouldn't be the quarterback in 3 years. I think he's got all the potential to be it. As of right now, I haven't seen anything to make me trust anything I just said. This is me kind of just, talking out of my butt that, hey, I think he, that's the key word, think. Like, I think that he has all the potential to do this. I would believe that the right move would be to start Jordan Love if he shows that progress and that potential 3 years from now, and get whatever you can for Rodgers. Or, at that point, Rodgers his contract's probably up, so he would just walk or retire at that point, which would, I would hope he would retire, not just walk.
Yep.
But right now, no question, it's Aaron Rodgers, and it's gonna hurt if the next 6 years turns into nothing and we're there every year. It's gonna hurt as fans. It is going to absolutely destroy Rodgers' legacy. If he makes if he plays what you said, another 6 years.
Yep.
If he makes 3 more conference championships and he loses all 3, and then he's 1-7, 1-8 in conference championships, that is going to absolutely destroy his legacy. He could put up all the stats in the world. He could win another 3 MVPs, but nobody is gonna care. It's all gonna come down to the man was 1-8 in conference championships. It's gonna hurt, but I gotta stick by Rodgers. The man has carried the Packers on his back for the past decade, pretty much. It's all him. I put all of my faith and trust in him. And I like Jordan Love. I didn't really like the pick, but he's on my team. I'm going to always defend my players, even when we're talking about scenarios like this.
Even Kevin King, huh?
Yeah. I did defend Kevin King in the last episode.
Yep, you did.
The player is on your team. Why are you trash talking him?
No, I agree.
I've said, oh my goodness, get this man off the field. But at the same time, These players make these plays for you. They're on your team. They deserve your respect. Jordan Love deserves your respect as a Packer fan. And whatever happens in the upcoming future, whether he gets traded, whether he becomes the starter, you know what? Wish him the best of luck. I think he can succeed on a good team. If he goes to, he's probably going to go to a quarterback-needed team, so he's probably going to struggle, at least in the beginning. But I think he can succeed in other places. I personally think the Packers are probably the team that he would be able to succeed most with. But to go back to your initial actual point, I am going with Rodgers and 6 years of heartbreak.
Yeah, just kind of my last remarks on this as far as Jordan Love goes. We won't even get into some of the things that people say to the Packers players on Twitter after a loss. That stuff is that's ridiculous. We're all adults, you gotta handle that and move on. It is just a football game at the end of the day, and like you said, the Packer players are the players of your team. So yeah, and also like on the Jordan Love point as well is, he didn't dress for what, like the last half of the games at least. I think I
don't think he dressed for any of them. I think he was inactive for 16 straight games.
Which is
18 straight.
18 straight games, which is not a good sign. If you're a team, like I was talking about maybe trading him, not a good sign. But I think when you've got a guy like Aaron Rodgers, like I was saying, who can tutor him, who I believe to be one of the highest IQ quarterbacks in the NFL, I think his ability to manipulate defense and know what they're doing better than they do, and to get them offsides and to get them in, 20 men on the field, speaks to his IQ. And when you got a guy like that, as the mentor to your potential successor, I think that bodes well for your team. Aaron Rodgers, as far as his legacy goes, I think that's a whole other debate for another day as to what is his legacy. I think especially for Packers fans, his legacy will never be rings. It's going to be, he's the most talented quarterback of all time. He carried that Packers franchise. He took over from Brett Favre. Look at all the stats. Look at the eye-popping numbers. I think that's his legacy. That is a debate that we could have for an hour probably about what exactly his legacy is going to be. Even more about what his legacy exactly is going to be about. And like you said, it does not, go well for him if he ends up 1-for-8 in NFC Championship games. That's going to be especially when you talk about the greatest of all time debate, and if you're 1-8 or 1-7 in NFC Championship games, if he loses another 3, and the guy that's widely considered the GOAT has as many Super Bowl wins right now as you have NFC Championship losses, that's going to be tough to overcome.